We've got to stop meeting this way.
Last Zoom call of the day.
We have a lot of attendees already on.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Ted, your voice is a little muffled.
Okay. Try again. Can everybody hear me okay?
Not really. Maybe you need to move closer to your microphone, or it's.
I'm about as close as I can get without sitting on it. Let's try again.
You're a little quiet, but I've learned on Zoom calls, you know, if everybody's frozen, it's usually you. So if I can't, it's usually the person who says it, he who dealt it rule. But can anybody else, is Ted garbled to anybody else?
It's very quiet.
Very quiet. Okay.
Not too much garbled, just very low volume.
How about that now? Wait,
You're really going to have to shout today.
let me close my door. I'm going to leave the meeting, then come back in again and try that.
I am moving some people to panelists that are over in the attendee side.
I guess I'm too ugly to keep a picture up here.
Artie, can you hear me better now?
I mean, I can hear you. You're just quiet. You're like E.F. Hutton.
That's the first time because I do these things multiple times. Some days I'm on them for 6 hours and have no problem.
You look good, though.
Well, I will. Pam has seen this before, but I'll show the rest of you.
Yep, I love it.
I like your background, Mr. Cote.
There I am.
A team player.
Oh my
Turn the light
gosh.
off.
Wow.
Yeah, my daughter's a graphic designer, so I said, hey, I need some virtual backgrounds. I realized early on it made a lot of sense. Plus, when you're doing public, you know, a lot of public meetings and things like that, when you have different agencies, it helps identify, oh, that's the person from DELDOT. So
That could be a good or a bad thing, Mark.
it comes with the job. Try to make it a good thing.
I just got a message that my internet is unstable, but my grandson is living with me with his mom and dad, and he's taking school on this thing. And I can't imagine going to kindergarten on Zoom.
Wow.
Mark, are you expecting other members? I'm just looking at the attendees list to see if there's anybody else I need to bring over that you're expecting. You're on mute.
Thank you. That as far as I know, everyone was going to attend, so I'm not sure.
Apologize. Who is Todd Rivas?
Oh, that's our Director of Technology and Innovation.
Okay, very good. Sorry about that, Todd.
Yeah, no worries.
He's making sure we all run smoothly.
So Nicole, John Gilbert, I don't believe is on, and Tom Holmes. I think those are
Holmes,
the
yep.
two members that are missing right now.
Yeah, those are the two.
And I do not see either of them in the, well, there's some people on the phone that I can't tell who they are, but.
Also, when Lori was contacting everyone, she did not get a reply from Mr. Holmes or Mr. Gilbert.
Okay.
If we don't have a reply from Tom and John, I'm going to recommend we go ahead and call a meeting order. So this is the call meeting order for the December 10th, 2020 Council on Transportation meeting. Our first item on our agenda, and I'll have Nicole and them call up here shortly. We want to share the screen is the approval of our August 18th, 2020 meeting minutes that were distributed to everybody.
Mark, are you sharing your screen or do I need to?
I think you do, and then I can take over as a co-host, I believe.
All right, just give me 1 second here.
If it makes any difference, I've read the minutes that were circulated by email by Lori.
So have I, so I would move to approve the minutes from the August meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Pam Scott and a second by Marty Lesnar to approve our August 18th, 2020 meeting minutes. Is there any discussion or comments on those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving our minutes from our August 18th, 2020 meeting, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm raising my hand.
I got you too. All those opposed? Hearing none, minutes are approved. Our next item on our agenda is the DELDOT update. First, before we get into that, I want to welcome our new Secretary of Transportation, Nicole Majeski. Congratulations. And our new Deputy Secretary and Chief Engineer, a dual role now, Shantae Hastings. So thank you both and welcome aboard.
Thank you, Ted. And I do need to do the caveat of that I am acting. I still have to go through the Senate confirmation process in January, so I don't want to take anything for granted in that.
Yep, I knew that, but I wasn't going to say that. And also, I think several of us got our reappointments to the council, so we can thank the governor and Nicole, Jennifer, as she had stepped away, and Shantae for pushing those through.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Okay, so I will get started. Everybody can hear me good?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So obviously we start everything with our mission to provide excellence in transportation, every trip, every mode, every dollar, and every one. Just wanted to touch on some highlights from this past year because even in spite of everything, the department was able to move ahead with a number of great initiatives this past year. So from a capital standpoint, we were able to open up the Margaret Rose Henry Bridge, also formerly known as the Christina River Bridge in Wilmington, which was great. We were able to partner with the town of Milton to open up a walking trail in their town to support their community. Our Transportation Infrastructure Investment Fund. This is an initiative that was created about 1.5 years ago from the governor and approved by the General Assembly that offers reimbursement grants to businesses that want to build, to relocate or expand in Delaware. And there's a jobs formula that's associated with these, but really what we look for is these reimbursements can go towards paying for their offsite transportation improvements that have a public benefit. So it's not just benefiting that one business, it's going to benefit the greater public in that area. And so the first round of awards happened over the summer. We awarded 7 applications, just under $8 million, and which will hopefully end up producing about 1,200 jobs. The second round of applications, that deadline ended November 15th. We received 6 applications that our staff and the Division of Small Business is currently reviewing, and the council is scheduled to get together in January to review those and make some recommendations. So we're excited about that. We continue our efforts to promote the Keep DE Litter Free campaign with the governor's office. Our Work-A-Day Earn a Pay program that started out as a pilot has been able to be expanded statewide. So we're very fortunate to have a partnership with them and doing everything we can to tackle the litter problem throughout our state. In Sussex County, we've had some great initiatives this past year. We were able to formalize the Henloop Transportation Improvement District with Sussex County Council in October. I think you're all familiar with what a TID is, a geographic area that we determine, working with the local land use agency to determine what it is that they want it to grow up to be when it's fully developed. We overlay that with a traffic impact study to determine what traffic improvements would be needed in order to support that development. And then we create a plan to make sure that those improvements are in place as development is occurring. So that was about 3+ years in the process of getting to the point where we got that agreement finalized. Also, our 5 Points Working Group. This we're going into I think our 3rd year now of our partnership with community leaders, stakeholders, businesses, legislators in that area, looking at traffic congestion and options for short-term and long-term solutions for that area from a safety congestion management standpoint. So we have had a lot of recommendations that we're working through now. Some are short-term that we're going to be able to do pretty quickly, but others are obviously long-term that will be seen in our capital program. And then, of course, Project Search, which is just near and dear to our hearts, which you're all familiar with. That's our partnership with the Charlton School and Cesar Rodney School District. We were fortunate that we were still able to graduate our 3rd class in the spring, even though it was virtual, and we did a parade of cars. We do have our 4th class with us now. They have been in person, but they are going to be going virtual for the next 2 weeks, but we're still going to be hopefully bringing them back to do their in-person internship with us in mid to late January. So I can't really have an update without talking about COVID and just how our agency has been able to pivot and continue to provide services to not only the traveling public, but all of our customers. So DELDOT remained open over this past year. Construction projects continued. DMV and DTC continued to provide services to our customers. We were very fortunate that we had a lot of electronic and technology platforms already in place that we were able to pivot very quickly with regards to having a good percentage of our workforce telecommute. We were able to do that very seamlessly with Todd Revis and his help. We have electronic plan submission process already established. So from a development standpoint, we were still able to accept plans, provide comments, reviews, and approvals and payments electronically. And so we didn't skip a beat there. Our projects never stopped. So we continue to advertise projects and award bids. So we have the ability to accept electronic bid submissions and do virtual bid openings. So that's been a great success. And then, as you all know, there's a lot of public involvement involved when we do a project. And with this past year, we had to switch to virtual meetings. And one of the benefits is that we've actually had more people participate now because it's easier from the comfort of their home. It's easier to log in and participate. So that's been a great thing. We've gotten a lot more feedback on projects that we otherwise may have only gotten a handful of people to show up in person. So even when we go back to an in-person world, we're probably going to keep a virtual component because we know we can reach more people that way. And then our online services for DNB in particular, we, while our DNB facilities never closed, we did reduce the number of people that we wanted to come into the building. So it was more on the emergency basis that we were processing people earlier this year. But because we have so many services available online, we were still able to serve a number of people. So whether it was renewing your driver's license, your car registration, change of address, all that stuff could be done by the comfort of their own home and didn't have to come into brick and mortar. Same on transit side, we have our mobile app. So we were able to shift to being able to accept online payment from our customers. They could make appointments, all that stuff with, trying to cut down on that cash transaction with individuals. So again, kudos to our technology team. Between the app and our website, we had a lot of platforms in place that we were able to continue our operations. So the downside, obviously, is we have seen a direct impact on COVID, on our finances because of COVID. So all of our revenue, as you know, is tied mainly to traffic. And so this past year, we saw a decline in traffic. During the spring, traffic was down about 50% on the weekday, about 70% on the weekend. At this point, we're seeing about traffic 10% down in Newcastle County, 5% in Kent County, and Sussex is pretty much even to where we were last year. So that has a direct impact on motor fuel tax and on tolls. So in fiscal year 20, we saw about a $55 million hit in revenue loss. This fiscal year, we're projecting another 50 million, and going into 22, we will continue to see a loss of about just under $18 million. Now, we were fortunate that we received CARES Act funding earlier this year through Federal Transit Administration that we were able to use as a one-time budget credit for our DTC subsidy. So that helped us tremendously. But the other thing we did over the summer was we sold additional bonds in order to maintain our capital program. So to keep projects going, because we know how important that is to the economy, and especially on the construction side of things, and plus the overall safety and congestion management throughout the state, we wanted to keep projects going. So we sold $225 million worth of bonds over the summer. And we sold $200 million in Garvey bonds for the I-95 rehabilitation project. So going forward, looking at the long term, we're going to talk about some adjustments that we're making to the capital program on a few projects, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. Whether or not there will be another federal stimulus package, we don't know. The talk right now is that if on all the different versions we've seen, that there's still that transit component that would help us tremendously. So there's still a lot of unknown there, but it's something that we're all mindful of, and we're trying to plan for and look at different options going forward.
Secretary Majeski, is it, should I ask, I have a question on that page. Should I ask it now or wait?
Sure.
Okay, on the CARES Act funding, under section 601 of the CARES Act, the state and Newcastle County received $1.2 billion. And under the legislation, it has to be spent on COVID with respect to expenditures with respect to COVID, and it has to be spent by December 30th, or it has to go back to the Treasury. And although I think there's, an effort afoot in Congress right now to amend that, so amend that date to past December 31st. It hasn't gotten done, and it's possible it won't be done. So that is going to leave a limited amount of days before December 30th to spend some of that money on COVID-related activities. And I know you've been included on some emails that I've sent to the Bike Council on projects that can be spent and basically done now with CARES money before it has to be sent back. And I sent some examples of way other jurisdictions have been spending it. My examples were bike and pedestrian and park improvements, but that doesn't necessarily include other projects, because there's examples of departments of transportation, paving roads near hospitals or paving roads that have gotten a lot of use. So my question is, before we leave this page, given that this funding may expire December 30th, what is the department doing to put forth, basically to fund projects that can be completed by year end?
So the funding that we received, just to clarify, that FTA money, that our CARES Act money from FTA was separate from the other pot of money that the state got.
That's right.
So we've taken care of our allotment and spending that. Now, as far as the remaining balance of what the state has and Newcastle County, you know, we continue to work with the state and the county on, you know, are there things that we could do to assist? Obviously, we're more of a support function for them. Now, the COVID-19 expenses that we've had as a department that's listed on the page, we are able to get reimbursed from that money for those expenses. And that was mainly for providing PPE and additional cleaning and things of that nature that we did. But you're right. I mean, there's other things that outside the box thinking where you've had some jurisdictions, you know, close the roads to increase the availability for restaurants to have outdoor seating. And that's something that Newark has done. So there are things like if there's some permanent infrastructure things that they need to do to maintain that going forward, that could be available for them for CARES Act funding. The point that you raised about the trails and parks and pathways, it's a great point because what we've seen now is more usage than ever before of our trail system and of our parks, because that was something that people could do during the spring and the summer to get out. And so I know, again, Newcastle County, we've had conversations with them about, you know, some of the trails and things of that nature, especially what in their area, because they've got a pretty robust program. So nothing definitive right now, but we're part of the conversations. And again, we've offered kind of a support system to be able to help spend the money. I mean, we'll happily spend whatever money they want to give us on any kind of initiatives like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. All right. So just switching ahead to the trust fund a little bit. So we've had our public hearing with OMB on our proposed 22 budget. So this is our sources of funds. You're all familiar with this slide. Obviously, the bulk of our money coming from tolls, DMV, and motor fuel tax. You'll see the bond proceeds from our sale over the summer, our fare box at about 19 million, and then the $250 million in federal funding that we are anticipated to receive. And how we're going to use that money, again, you're all familiar with this. The bulk of our funds go towards the capital program. We're looking at a $540 million program for next fiscal year, with the remaining going to pay down debt service and then our operating costs for DTC and for DELDOT. This just gives you that snapshot of revenues, the historic kind of look back of where we were with the three main revenue sources, the dip that we took, and then how we are projected to see revenue kind of bounce back. It will take a little bit of time before we get back to those pre-COVID levels, but the fortunate thing, because DMV did not close and we had the online services and people still bought cars, our hit to DMV revenue was not very significant. The largest hit that we've taken is in toll revenue. And then,
Secretary Majeski, is
Yep.
that had any effect on the calculus for the financing of Route 301?
no, 301 is actually performing very well, even during the pandemic. I mean, as I think we've talked about, our traffic numbers were pretty conservative with 301 with our TIFIA financing. And so even over the course of the pandemic, while traffic was down a little bit on 301, the revenue projections are still very good.
So those toll revenues, that was mostly 95 and Route 1?
Correct. That is what we kind of kept 301 out of this because of the separate funding and payment plan for this. So what you're seeing here for that revenue loss is just 95 and Route 1.
Okay.
And then debt service is a percentage of revenue. So even with our borrowing, we maintain that 20% threshold. We do bump up because of 301, that red for a short period of time, but then we'll be back down below 20%. So some initiatives I just want to hit on real quick. Going into 22, obviously, we're going to continue to deliver on our capital program, even with some of the constraints that we may have from a revenue standpoint. We're going to continue to deliver on that 6-year program that we have out. With the biggest project coming, the I-95 Restore the Corridor, the rehabilitation of that stretch of 95. We have been talking about that project for, probably 2 years now, and we are 2 months from that becoming a reality. So Get ready, folks. It is real and it is happening. Some of the other things from a DMV standpoint, the Real ID compliant driver's license, it should have taken an effect this past October, but there was an extension of 1 year. So people have until October of 2021 to become Real ID compliant and have that gold star on their driver's license. So we'll be doing a social campaign, media campaign to encourage people to get that done. We're at about a 72% of our driver's license holders are Real ID compliant. So just that push to get those final few in the door. Again, more enhancements with our app from DTC standpoint, and then the overall DELDOT app, continuing to find ways to provide more online services for our customers, just to make that whole experience better and more convenient for them. Our coastal corridor study, so kind of taking off of the success we've seen with 5 Points, we're going to start looking at the east-west corridors down in Sussex County, starting with 404, doing these community conversations with the towns, businesses, schools, fire service, community leaders, and just talking about different congestion management, safety issues, and trying to develop a plan for some short-term and long-term solutions along those corridors. Our strategic highway safety plan, this is a big deal for us. So every 5 years we update this plan. And typically what we do is it's law enforcement, Office of Highway Safety, and then Safety and Homeland Security. We kind of get together and develop what our focus areas should be, and then we kind of go from there. This year, we did something a little bit different, and we were a little bit more expansive. And we brought in stakeholders and advocates from all over, from various different groups, and to try to get a broader perspective on issues and safety concerns. And so that way we could develop a more comprehensive plan. And so the end result is that by the end of this year, we'll finalize that document. We've identified 8 focus areas going forward. So that's going to be everything from intersection improvements, roadway departures, distracted driving, which is new because it's becoming even more of a problem now with people with their smartphones, impaired driving, pedestrians, motorcyclists. Speeding is going to be a big focus. The concerning thing for us is that even with traffic as low as down 50%, our fatality numbers, while less than last year, are still at 109, which is significant given that we had so many fewer cars on the roads. And a lot of these accidents that we're seeing, whether they're serious crashes or fatalities, are attributed to speeding. Fewer cars on the roadway, people think that they can just drive as fast as they want. And so we really are going to use this plan as a launching pad to be able to focus on some safety initiatives with our partners in law enforcement and Safety and Homeland Security to do education, to look at innovative ideas, whether it's develop safety corridors, increase enforcement, look from a design standpoint, working with our land use partners on, separating the modes so that we have safe cyclists, safe pedestrians. So more to come on that, but we're excited about finally having this document together and being able to release that by the end of the year, beginning of January. And then of course, our people, always at the forefront of everything we do, keeping them safe, making sure that they've got the resources that they need in order to do their job. So continuing to invest in our facilities and our folks.
Secretary Majeski.
Yep.
One of the ideas on controlling speed, besides speed bumps or your corridors, as far as law enforcement, police with radar guns, is there any consideration to camera enforcement? Not just City of Wilmington running red light camera enforcement, but speed enforcement with cameras. In France on the highways, I know from firsthand experience that they have cameras that clock you and automatically send you a ticket for going a certain amount of kilometers over the speed limit. And I'm not suggesting that, we set it at 56, but it may be set at something like 80. So you automatically nail people who are really aggressive drivers on our highways.
Yeah, so automated speed enforcement is something that is being discussed quite broadly. We do need legislation in order to implement that, for that to be a tool for law enforcement to use. But what some legislators are looking at now, and what we've looked at in other jurisdictions, is they've put these cameras that can sit along the side of the road and again take those photos of people that are speeding. We've seen them be placed in work zones, in school zones, in communities, and then along roadways where it's difficult for law enforcement to pull over vehicles because there may not be an adequate shoulder there. So all different kinds of scenarios. So it is definitely something that's being talked about quite a bit. Like I said, it will need legislation. I'm not exactly sure what form that will be in, but I would not be surprised to see something generated in the coming months from the General Assembly around that.
So is that legislation in front of a committee right now, or is it?
It is
waiting
not.
for-
It's literally just people are just having conversations about different ideas and looking to see what other jurisdictions are doing, other states. Pennsylvania and Maryland recently deployed this type of enforcement in work zones. So there's been some outreach to them. But again, it would just be legislation that would enable law enforcement to deploy devices like this. So more to come on it. No specific bill yet, but I would stay tuned. I'm sure that we'll probably see something.
Okay, and one last question. What committee would that go to? In the
It
legislature?
could be in, depending on, it could end up in a transportation committee or it could end up in public safety. We're not sure. But we can keep you all updated as to, once we see a bill, letting you know the number and where it's going to be. Okay. And
I
then
was
one
going to
last-
add too, sorry, that District of Columbia, they've had camera enforcement for a number of years also. Is a
I'm
little
painfully
closer to
aware of
home.
that one too. And they said it on 295 on the highway that goes through the parkway, that the part of 295 that goes through town. And they set it at like 55 and the side roads even less. I'm not suggesting we turn the state into what old Leipzig used to be when you rode through it on Route 9, but
well, and I think there is that balance, especially you mentioned red light camera, is that you don't want this to be seen as a revenue generator for anybody. This
Right.
needs to be data driven and it needs to be focused on safety. So that's where we would be able to help law enforcement with speed studies and traffic studies and looking at crash data to make recommendations as to where these could be deployed. So, but again, I think it's definitely being talked about. And so I would not be surprised to see legislation soon. So one last initiative that I want to talk about, this is in Sussex County, the Fast Track Program, funding accelerating safety and transportation, which I believe Todd Lawson came up with that acronym. So the idea around this initiative is that Sussex County would select a project that is already scheduled in our CTP. And then Sussex County in turn would fund that project, including the design, the right-of-way, and the construction of the project. By funding it now, they can pull it ahead. So something that may be programmed in our CTP for 3 or 4 years out, them funding it now pulls all of that ahead so that the project can get completed faster. We would administer the project, and at the end of the project, when it's done, we would reimburse Sussex County back the funds associated with that. The concept is being discussed and going to be up for consideration. It's been discussed at Sussex County Council in previous months, but Council on the 15th is going to kind of vote on formalizing this new initiative. And then as they identify projects, it would go back before Sussex County and they would vote on that project to move it ahead. So that is all I have from my update. If anyone has any other questions for me. If not, I think I'm turning it over to Mark and then to go through some implementation updates for the CTP.
Cool.
All right, Mark, all you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm here to give the update on the implementation plan for the 21-26 CTP. And so a bit of good news is that Federal Highways and FTA approved the 21-26 CTP last month on November 19th. So of course, as soon as we have that formally approved, we're already working on tweaking that. And so we're going to cover some changes in the implementation plan here. It is on the website, so hopefully you were, well, I know you were all given a copy of that last week with the notice of the meeting. But again, if you are a member of the public or an attendee, it is on our website. Go to DELDOT.gov, go to publications, and it is at the bottom of that page. Yes, there's a screenshot there on the right that shows the spend plan and then the implementation plan. So I'm going to just cover some highlights in each county for that. So some of the Newcastle highlights is the 896 widening project, which is ranked number 15 out of the number of projects. That's from Route 40 up to I-95. The phases are being pushed to the out years, and the reason that is happening is that the critical sections of 896 where we have congestion and safety concerns are related to the two major intersections with 95 and Route 40, and we have proposed grade separation intersection projects coming to address those two major intersections. And so we are going to push the widening of 896 further along until after those are completed. The next project is number 32, I-95 and 896 interchange. And so there we were able to win a infra grant, which has allowed us to pull forward the construction of that project by 2 years. And so so again, some of these implementation changes, some are being pushed out and some are being pulled forward. So again, this is where we have specific dedicated revenue for that project, which allows us to pull it forward. The next project is Tyler McConnell Bridge, ranked number 54. So here we are pushing the PE out to the further out years, and also with the right of way. Again, this is going to be a very complicated project with a lot of complex project development. Will be intense public involvement, I'm sure, given that I was part of that 20 years ago, where I've met some of you along the way regarding that. So that again gets pushed to the out years. And then lastly, in Newcastle, these are again just some of the highlights. There's a lot of other projects that have more minor tweaks that are, the phasing may just extend into a year additional or be moved up. But the last highlight is the I-295 northbound project from 141 to 13, where we are again pulling the construction forward a year, and that's just due to more limited right-of-way impacts, and it's a critical project for safety and congestion, and so we are able to do that. And then one other highlight is that the I-95 141 ramp project, G and F, which was ranked number 58, has actually been completed, and so that is being removed from the implementation plan because it has been completed. So moving
Mark?
on to, yes.
Just the one comment, especially on the 896 and the 141, Tyler McConnell.
Yes.
I really liked the job that DELDOT did on the Marsh Road I-95 intersection. The way it was made bicycle friendly and frankly car friendly to go through that area, and allowing people to go from the North Marsh Road side, all the neighborhoods there with the shoulders and the bike path, and to have clearly marked bike routes and now special, I would say, bike corridors to get you through that I-95 intersection to take you to the state park and the Greenway Trail. And I hope that in the design and implementation of 896 and 141, that the same types of considerations are implemented as was done with that Marsh Road project.
Sure.
Marty,
So thank
just
you for those comments.
For 95 and 896, the actual interchange project, we are closing that missing like 2 mile gap for bikes where they can't safely negotiate that interchange as part of the project. So there will actually be a separate shared use path adjacent to 896 to get people across and through that interchange.
Good. If I was gonna say, if it's like what was done to get people through the Marsh Road 95 intersection, that'll be excellent.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks, Shante. So Ken highlights one of the projects that got pushed out was the West Street from New Burton Road to North Street. It's just a lower priority project. It was ranked number 76. We haven't started it yet, and so we pushed that to the out years. The other project in Kent County that I wanted to highlight is the SR1 Scarborough Road, CD roads, which is up by the mall on the east and west side of 1 south of Scarborough Road. Really the main driver of this project was some development plans for the Dover Mall that was driving that in collaboration with Dover Downs, and so kind of the expansion plans for the development of the mall are on pause, and so we are also having this project put on pause. And then there's one other project that was removed, which is the Lockerman Street Forest Ave project that was requested to be removed at by the city of Dover. Moving on to Sussex, a couple of highlights for projects that we wanted to bring up is so Route 9 Kings Highway, Dartmouth Drive to Freeman Highway, which there's quite a bit of interest in that project. This is ranked number 6. So the PE is, preliminary engineering is being extended into FY 24 and 25, just because again, it will be a complicated project. But I do want to make sure that people understand that the right of way and construction are staying in the same year. So this is not being moved really at all. It's just that the complicated design and project development will just extend this beyond the original forecasted years. Number 9 on our rank list is US 9 and 113 grade separated intersection. And so this project is an expensive grade separated intersection, GSI, $61 million. And so this is being pushed into the out years more for financial reasons. And we're also working on additional GSIs in the 113 corridor. And so this project gets pushed out. Plantation Road, which is number 65, from 24 to 9. Again, the right of way and construction gets pushed out a couple of years. And the reason for this is there's a phase 2 project for this for Mulberry Road, and we are doing a preliminary and environmental linkage study on that. So that's going to postpone that project. So once we have the Pell study completed, this allows for the phasing to be pushed out for 2 years to coordinate all of that work. And then lastly, the Dairy Farm Road and Beaver Dam Fisher is actually is the project that Sussex County, if they move forward with the fast track pilot program, then they are planning on funding this project, and so that gets moved up significantly since the money will not come out of the trust fund. So with that, we can open it up for questions.
One quick question, Mark, and I guess maybe Nicole and Shante. With several of these projects being pushed back, has the department expended money on preliminary engineering and everything that might have to be redone in the future, since the projects are being pushed back? If we know things change down the road in how you design systems like this.
So I can jump in on that. For the Sussex projects that we have here, obviously Mark mentioned that PE is just getting extended for the US 9 project. 9 and 113, we have not expended any PE funds yet. There was the concept that was done as part of the environmental document about 8 or so years ago, but that's all the design work that had been done for that. Plantation Road, we had begun preliminary work. We've got survey plans, but just really need to pause as we look at this Mulberry Road extension project and figure out whether it makes sense to just improve Plantation at the intersections and some bike and ped improvements versus dualizing it. Those are two completely different things. So we really need to get through this Mulberry Knoll project, but I don't foresee any redesign per se. It's just figuring out what we're going to move forward with. And we haven't begun any work on Dairy Farm except for initial concepts when it was identified as a safety issue. If you go back to Kent, Nicole, we have not expended any PE on either of those projects. And if you go back to Newcastle, nothing on 896 widening yet, nothing on Tyler McConnell, and nothing on 295.
Thank you. I was just curious. That's all. Thank you.
A great question.
All right, if there are no other questions, then we are going to give you the update on the mother of all projects that's headed your way come February. So Shantae, you're going to take it over?
I sure will. So we'll start with just the project need and description. So as many of you know, this section of I-95 was built in the 60s and is due for some extensive maintenance and rehabilitation work. So our goal with this project is to extend the service life by 30 years so that we don't have to keep disrupting traffic as we do small improvements. We also have some safety enhancements as part of this project, as well as some congestion relief for certain stretches. There are 19 bridges that will be rehabilitated and 3 miles of pavement, as well as lighting improvements, upgrades to medium barrier, you name it. So the project extends from the I-95-495 split up to just about the 202 exit. So from a project schedule standpoint, I should back up and just say that we went through a different alternative contracting mechanism for this project using CMGC, which is Construction Manager General Contractor. That allows us to bring a contractor in during the design process to get feedback on constructability of our design, as well as maintenance of traffic, which just helps us reduce risk once we actually put the project out into construction. And so Kiewit is the company that was selected, and we've been working with them for just about a year as we finalize the design for the project. There are 6 ongoing advanced projects in the works right now. Our plan is to set traffic controls in place in mid-February, so just 2 months, as Nicole mentioned, with construction actually starting March 1st. So there's a few weeks of work to get everybody in the first phase configuration. And we're planning for 2 years of reduced lane capacity on 95. We will always maintain 1 lane in each direction and always maintain access into and out of the city. So talking about the advanced projects, there were 3 that were bid out separately. So you've got the 2nd Street on-ramp, which is underway and should be done in early January, providing some safety improvements for cars getting onto 95 from that ramp. We also had an advanced sign structures contract to bring all the sign structures up into compliance, as well as a bearing replacements project for under the bridges. Because we had our contractor on board, we were also able to issue 3 work packages to them. So early work package on the material procurement to make sure that we can hit the ground running when construction starts. We also had them do some reconstruction of the southbound shoulder as well as the crossovers to get us into that first phase of work. And then they also installed demo shields above the Amtrak lines, again, just to get us in a good place as we start construction. And there were a variety of other projects throughout the area. We talked about Car and Marsh Road earlier. We've got the 141 project at J Drive, which is under construction. All impacts to 95 traffic will be complete by the time this project starts, and there's various others. So we'll go to the next slide and talk about.
Can I ask you a quick question on that 2nd Street ramp in Wilmington? Is that a permanent ramp? Because that's the one that heads to southbound 95.
Yep.
And just looking at it, it looks really steep. Is that going to be the permanent ramp, or is that a construction ramp?
That is the permanent ramp. It meets all of our design requirements. We follow the AASHTO Green Book, so it does meet all those requirements. Marty, I can get the percentage.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering how people are going to get up to 55 miles an hour after coming up that ramp. Is there a long lead out?
So yes, so part of doing that project is actually to get people up and parallel with 95 as they're accelerating and give them a little bit more room to get up to speed. So that's part of that. Basically, you're pulling the ramp back a little bit to give them more space to do that, which was a safety improvement.
Okay. Looks like the start of a roller coaster.
It's not. All right, so moving on to construction phasing. So there will be 3 phases for the project. I'm going to focus on phase 1 for today because that's the first thing that's coming up. It will go into effect, as we mentioned, in mid-February and last through the fall. Phase 2, and I should say phase 1 basically does construction on the northbound lanes of 95. Phase 2 focuses on the southbound lanes, and then phase 3 is kind of that final work, finishing work. So for phase 1, we will be closing northbound lanes of 95, which are highlighted in the reddish orange color, and we will be contraflowing both the northbound and southbound lanes on the existing southbound I-95. As I mentioned, we will maintain at least 1 lane in each direction. In this picture, you see that we have 2 lanes, but as you exit off of 95 at MLK, it has to go down to 1 lane to allow that exit to happen. And then after phase 1 is complete, we're going to flip and basically do the same thing. We'll close southbound 95 and have all of the vehicles for both northbound and southbound in the northbound lanes. So Nicole, you can go to the next slide. In terms of public outreach, we have had extensive meetings. We formed a community advisory group and have been meeting with them for quite some time. We've done several public workshops on this project and information meetings. We've had extensive coordination with our first responders and given them a playbook basically to say, if there's a crash at this location, here's how you access it, so that everyone's on the same page and we know who's responding and from where. So we've done a ton of coordination on that in that respect. We've got the DELDOT app where there's a new I-95 icon, so you can tap on that and get project information right at your fingertips. We've also created a standalone project website, restorethecorridor.com, which has a ton of great information. We have hired a construction liaison, one of our former chief engineers, Natalie Barnhart. She also served this role when we did the Main Street Newark project recently, and it worked out really well. She'll be a liaison between the residents and businesses and our contractor and construction staff so that issues can be addressed quickly, modifications made quickly, and or information provided back to residents and businesses. And then the last thing is the real-time traffic alert. So we'll be using existing message boards as well as new message boards to communicate travel times. So my understanding from Don Weber earlier today is that the message board on Route 1 at 72 has travel time information on it, as well as I believe he said the one close to 896. And so we'll start broadcasting more of that information to let people know what the travel times are based on different routes so that they can make good decisions as they're commuting to Wilmington or to points north. And then lastly, commuting solutions. We have worked with our transit arm of our organization, DART. They've done a great job at looking at transit routes and making adjustments, knowing that the project is coming. They've talked with people about what their needs are so that they can make those transit adjustments. They've coordinated with SEPTA to get service restored from Newark to Fairplay starting in January. So there will be 4 trips northbound in the mornings and 3 trips southbound in the evenings. And then lastly, we've continued our partnership with Rideshare Delaware to make sure that commuters know what their options are and are getting incentives and additional information as they're trying to get in and around Wilmington. So a lot of efforts. The big picture is City of Wilmington is open for business. So if you're going to Wilmington, allow a little bit of extra time. You may decide to seek an alternate route. And if you're going to points north of Wilmington, we would suggest that you use 495. That's my really quick update.
And Mr. Chair, that is all the updates that we have for the council, but would just throw out there that we are available to come to any organization that would like to get an update on I-95. We're trying to talk to everyone and anyone to make sure everybody is prepared in advance of the construction starting in February. So any organization, community groups, we are happy to have someone participate. I know Sierra McLeod, our Director of Community Relations, did Rotary today, talking to them about the project. So we put that offer out there for everybody.
Thank you, Nicole. Before I go into public comment, I'll ask members of the council if they have any questions about the I-95 corridor project or anything Nicole, Shante, and Mark have presented to us this afternoon. Just make sure everyone's aware, this was for the CTP program. It was an update. It is not a vote. We went to the every other year cycle. This was just an implementation update, and that next year is when we'll be voting on a new program. So here,
Chairman,
yes,
Chairman Winslow, I just wanted to make a comment in terms of the I-95 project. I want to commend the department on all the outreach you've done. If anyone is unaware of this project happening, they must have been sleeping under a rock somewhere, because I think the word has truly gotten out there, and I really appreciate all the different ways that you have tried to engage folks so that they can prepare themselves for this. So thank you for that.
I'll do that also. Okay, with that, I'm going to open it up to public comment. I think you have to do the raise hand feature if you want to make a public comment. So please, folks, do that. It's on the bottom of your screen. Do a raise hand, and then you can you'll be recognized and brought in to make a comment. When you do come in, please identify yourself and where you reside in or work.
Oh, okay. We do have
Two people,
two people. Let's see.
Dan and Jay.
All right. So Dan, you are unmuted, I think.
He's still muted on
Oh, wait.
my screen.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, there you go. We hear you.
Okay, great. I just want to say, I just want to confirm that.
Excuse me, Dan, could you please give us your name and where you live or work?
Sure. Well, I live in Sterling Crossing, Rehoboth Beach, and I pressed the raise the hand by accident. I'll let you know that first. But I just want to say that's great. When I saw, the feds have basically said everything's good with our CTP for Delaware.
That is correct.
Wonderful. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. And then
Jay Tomlinson.
Tomlinson.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on the call. Appreciate it very much. Name is Jay Tomlinson from Lewis, Delaware, and I'm a member of a group, Citizens for Responsible Kings Highway Development. So needless to say, I'm kind of concerned, I guess, about this 1 or 2 mile corridor that's under heavy development stress being delayed in the PE process, which we really hoped would begin next July. Is there anything rationale you can give me or updates on that? Because this is a kind of a big surprise and a big concern.
So I want to emphasize that the PE is not being delayed. It was scheduled to begin in FY22, and it is still starting in FY22. The original schedule had PE in 22 and 23, and we just believe that the PE phase will continue into 23 and 24, but it's not being delayed or pushed back. It's just we're adding additional funding in those years.
I say so we will have PE beginning in 22, and I'm just misinterpreting this slide that says extended. That's the key word, extended.
Yes.
So it's going to take a 4-year process to reach that engineering phase. Seems long for essentially a 1 mile stretch of highway.
I'd be happy to jump in on that. Jay, thanks for the question. So
thanks,
PE ends up extending into right of way. So we do design from the very beginning of the project until it actually goes out to construction. And so oftentimes we're making changes as we're working with property owners on right of way acquisition. We're making tweaks to our design along the way. So the PE extends that, it overlaps with the right of way phase. And given both the extensive development in the area, as well as community organized kind of community organizations, we're definitely knowing that we're going to have a lot of public meetings, that there's going to be a lot of input. It's going to take a decent amount of time to get to consensus on this. So we want to make sure that we're setting realistic expectations when it comes to the overall schedule and the design process.
All right. I'll send some emails to you later on, and we'll go further. But it is a 10-year delayed project, and now we were really hoping to go the other way, actually, and maybe have it be part of the FAST project. So I guess we're not there yet, so that's fine. But thank you for the comments. I do appreciate it, and thanks for holding these meetings. It's very educational. Thank you.
Sure. For those who have called in for the webinar, if you want to raise your hand, you just need to hit *9 and you'll be recognized that way for anybody else who wants to speak. Oh, Sean,
Okay, I have
There
another
is
hand.
another hand. Hold on.
Keith Stick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Hi, my name is Keith Stack. I live in Milton, and I have a few questions. I'm sorry I came into the meeting late. I had another meeting that I was at, but anyway, so if you've touched on this, great. If not, then it will be a new question. But first real quick question. The recording, I see you guys are recording this. How would the public access the recording? That's the first question.
Mark, you're on mute.
Darn it. Thank you. We'll add that to the Council on Transportation section on our website, DELDOT.gov. It does take I think it takes a day or two to process, I believe, and then we can add it.
Great, great. The other question that I wanted to bring up is, and again, you may have already touched on this, I'm not sure, but I believe, if I understand correctly, that bridges are handled almost as separate projects and the like, and the question has to do with bridge construction along Route 24 in particular. So can you address those bridges that will have to be built along 24, whether they're expanding 24 to 3 lanes or 4 lanes, and the time frame for that?
So if you're talking about the section of 24 from the Love Creek Bridge out to Route 1, the Love Creek Bridge is not planned to be expanded at this time. So the improvements basically start just east of that. And there are no major bridge widenings or expansions as part of the 2 Route 24 widening projects.
So if I understand what you're saying, there are no plans for bridge expansions on Route 24 anywhere?
Correct, not at this time. The dualization of 24 basically runs from the middle and elementary school intersection out to Route 1.
Okay. And what about west of that, down around Millsboro, down towards Millsboro, et cetera?
So we have the North Millsboro Bypass Project, which is off alignment. So no expansion to existing bridges. There are new bridges that will be built in the area of Millsboro Pond. And I'd be happy to put some information in the chat box where you can see what the alignment is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steck. Is there anybody else that has raised hand or *9? Seeing Nicole shake her head no, I will go ahead and close our meeting to public comment. I only have one item to say, and that's once again, is to congratulate Nicole and Shante on their acting positions. Mark, I think you're doing a fine job in your new position, so thank you also. We appreciate it. And I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. And please stay safe. I'm one of the proponents, so make sure you wear your mask when you're in public.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Chairman, I should have pointed out in the beginning that you will need to excuse the ugly holiday sweaters that Shantae, Laney, and I are wearing. Drew, or not Drew, oh my gosh, Drew. Mark did change his outfit. We did our virtual staff meeting today, and so we tried to bring some fun by having everybody wear an ugly sweater, so.
Fantastic. I appreciate it.
Happy
very much.
holiday.
So, does anybody else from the council have any comments? If none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll move for adjournment.
Thank
I
you very
second.
much.
Pam
Mr.
Scott.
Martin, and a second to adjourn. Therefore, all in favor, say aye.
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 You're adjourned. Thank you very much, Nicole and staff. We appreciate all your help and your efforts.
Thank you all very much. Happy holidays and
Thanks.
stay safe.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Shantae, I always like to say who's the last person to find the leave button.
I realize that I think I'm technically a co-host and that's why I'm still in here.
Well, and I was just looking at the chat and then, oh, it's now on the right. Okay. I was just wanting to see. So Drew had a comment, which I didn't get to announce in public, but
Your sweater's not ugly.
that's fine.
I like that.
All right, I'm closing this out.